from Mel Gregson to Simon Love, our reporter at the same site. Simon, good morning to you.
Yeah, morning to you, Ross. I'm just a couple of feet away from where Mel is, just looking down on all this. The protesters have moved in and formed like a bit of a semicircle around the police blockade. Around about 10 minutes ago, the police moved in on a line that the east-west protesters set up, basically set up two lines of police, and there was violent, not violent, but a bit of scuffles that broke out. Some of the protesters claiming that they were kicked and that sort of thing. Now, what all they're after is they just don't want any work on the east-west link to go ahead today. But I've spoken to the state government, Ross, and they've told me that Linking Melbourne got word of this protest possibly last night, and they put some plans in place. Basically, Linking Melbourne staff are either working in the city or elsewhere today. So not many of the staff are going to be turning up for work, I don't think, Ross.
Have we got a mole?
Maybe.
Molly. We had a mole in the community picket who's tipping the government off to what their plans are. So they're all working from somewhere else.
Yeah, that's right, Ross. More protesters are arriving. I can estimate about 40 police are here. I can see Mel Gregson and Anthony Main just discussing what they're going to do next in terms of this protest. Police have got, I can safely say the police have got control of the situation at the moment.
I can see it. Well, it's only 8:15, but has anybody attempted to turn up to work at all?
I don't believe so. I saw some people inside the building looking in from the inside out, and I can actually see people from the Linking Melbourne people on the top floor of the building looking down. So there are people already in work, so they either got here to work early on and they're probably having an early shift today, or they're not going to turn up to their building at all.
The Simon, Linking Melbourne, the only people in that building?
I believe so.
Are there any cafes, for example? Because we do know that last time the cafe owner was told, we'll fix you up.
Yeah, there's a cafe here called Sette Bello, and there are, I'm just walking past it now, and there are people, having their coffees and having breakfast inside. So none of that. We don't have a case of Bill the cafe owner this time, I believe, but they're just blockading the entrance into Linking Melbourne. But it is, Ross, particularly as part of Brandon Business Park. There are other businesses here. I think from the look of the outside, it's just the Linking Melbourne building as part of this business park that the east-west protesters were trying to blockade.
And for the sake of the completeness of the historical record, Ella Karch just screamed in my ear, Sette Bello was a very good restaurant.
Oh, that's good.
So pop in there, Simon, and have something nice. Thanks for your report, young man.
Thanks, Ross. Cheers.
Police have moved in to stop East-West Link protesters blockading the project's headquarters. Simon Love is there.
Shortly after 8 o'clock, protesters linked arms and formed a line in front of police already guarding the main entrance into the Linking Melbourne Authority building here in Springvale Road, Glen Waverley. Police moved in, telling organisers they had no right to prevent people going to work, but the protesters said they wanted to continue stopping work on the multi-billion-dollar project for today. A scuffle then followed as police successfully formed a pathway to the door, leaving protesters scrambling to cover back doors. The blockade continues. Simon Love, Fairfax Radio News, Glen Waverley.
Until noon, you're listening to Neil Mitchell.
The Acting Chief Commissioner Graham Ashton mentioned a moment ago the East-West Link protesters are out at Glen Waverley protesting. He's sort of he sent a bit of a warning. You behave yourself and let people go about their business or else. Simon Love from our newsrooms there. What's happening, Simon?
Well, Neil, that's the exact warning that police are trying to get across to the protesters, the inspector in this area, trying to speak to Anthony Main and Mel Gregson. In fact, right now, I can see the protesters are scuffling a bit. There's a bit of movement. Police have just, there's something happening. A woman's just trying to get into the building now. I'm not sure if she's from Linking Melbourne or from the travel agent. But we've just seen over the last half an hour these scenes a couple of times, including a time where Mel Gregson, one of the protesters, claims that she was pushed to the ground. So protesters continue to link arms and blockade the main door to the Linking at Melbourne building, as well as the back door.
Okay. Well, how many protesters would be there?
I'd say where I'm now, about 15 are linked arms across the front door and police right behind them as well. Public order response teams also here behind in the back part of the building.
A lot of police?
Yeah, I reckon it's a pretty solid presence from the police. They wanted to make sure that nothing would go crazy.
And are they sort of escorting people through the protest to get to work?
They certainly are. In fact, Neil, one time one of the people actually went around a bush and actually leapfrogged over one of the bushes to let police usher him into the door. So some interesting scenes there.
Righto, thanks, Simon. We'll stay in touch. Simon Love, Linking Melbourne officers, Glen Waverley. So they're targeting the government not private enterprise now.
East-West Link protesters are maintaining their blockade at the project's headquarters. Simon Love is there.
The group of demonstrators who have already blockaded drilling sites and the offices of tender bidders continue to link arms at 3 doors to the Springvale Road Linking Melbourne building. Organiser Anthony Main says the group wants to stop work on the multi-billion-dollar project for today, but that didn't sit well with police.
Infringe on people's rights or lays hands on anybody will be arrested. I'll make that clearly abundant right now.
We'll be discussing with people as they arrive and asking them not to cross our community picket.
Scuffles followed, with protesters claiming they were kicked when police moved in, but staff are getting into the building with the help of the public order response team. One man working at the building, which also houses a real estate agent, jumped a hedge in a bid to enter the front door. The blockade continues. Simon Love, Fairfax Radio News, Glen Waverley.